Welcome in. What's going on, everybody? The debut show of Dangle, Bet, and Celly. Chris Meaney and Eric Young here with you on this Tuesday. We're just a couple hours away from opening night in the NHL. The two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning will get us underway against the very shorthanded Pittsburgh Penguins. And then in the nightcap, the Seattle Kraken unleash the Kraken. They are going to make their debut tonight in Vegas against the Golden Knights, and they are also shorthanded. But the NHL is here. This is a free show. Thanks for taking the time to hang out with us. Eric Young and I are going to be with you every Tuesday and every Thursday. We're going to be previewing the games for those days, take a sneak peek at tomorrow's games, the weekend, get you set up in fantasy hockey with 4-game streams, hit the waiver wire, touch on a little DFS. It is all things NHL here on this show. Eric, what's up, my man? We're back together, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, man, me too. It is a beautiful day to be alive. The NHL starts again. We got a full season. We got people in the stands. COVID obviously is still a thing, but it feels good to have, a full slate of games. Kind of four strange teams to start. Two of them, like you said, very underhanded and shorthanded, and a bunch of injuries and people not ready to go. But what I know for sure is me and you, we're ready to go. The Goon Line strikes again, buddy. Let's do this.
Yeah, we're ready to go. I mean, one of our leagues is still currently drafting right now. Hopefully we're finished our...
I need to threaten these guys physically. I mean, that's the next step. That's the next step. I mean, most of them I don't even know.
Please?
I will send a message to them. I mean, this is insane. I know that their cell phone is in their hands like everybody else on the planet Earth. You get the alert because everyone's getting the alerts, and you just go in and you make your pick. It's not that big of a deal. Let's speed this up. I got James Bond to watch tonight, and I will watch both the games in their entirety because I'm a psychopath, and I'll record them and watch them all.
Yeah, for those who don't know, I mean, Eric Young by now. He says he's a fantasy hockey psycho, and he is a fantasy hockey psycho. Yes. He plays in multiple leagues. He watches all the games. Even when they're done, he'll go back and watch them all. So hopefully, we'll have you covered here on this show. Again, free if you're watching live. You're watching the replay on FTM Bets on our YouTube page. At any moment you have any questions, leave them there in the YouTube section. We'll see them here on the show. You can always circle back before puck drop, and I'll keep an eye on the videos as well. If you do have any season-long questions, you can always reach out to us. Our DMs are open. Slide in there, and that's the goal here. We just want to help you win some cash, whether it's bets, shot props, parlays, some long shots, some first goals, all that good stuff. And then we'll have a little DFS content throughout. And, on Tuesdays, we'll take a look at the weekend that just happened and kind of get you set for the week. And then on Thursdays, we'll really dive into the weekend and take a look at the week to come with 4-game streams, something that Eric and I have been doing for quite some time. Let's rake this year. I smashed last year following Meaney's prop bets, T-Bone, Pickens. The first comment. We appreciate you. Hopefully we can continue the success. If you are looking to be part of the FTN fam, ftnbets.com/pricing. We're including all the sports this year. So if you are looking just to be part of the NHL fam, I think it's pretty cool that if you do sign up, whether it's monthly or annually for the season, you're going to have all the bets. You're going to have NBA, which is a week away from starting. NFL, we're into week 6. MLB playoffs in full swing here. And all the sports, I mean, we have guys that have won over 100 units in tennis. Shout out Josh Gross. We got you covered over at ftnbets.com. All right, Eric, let's not mess around anymore. We'll get into some injuries because there's significant guys like Nathan Mccann is not going to play tomorrow. He's on the COVID list. Austin Matthews is out for a week. Mitch Marner had a collision with, I think, Wayne Simmons at practice today, and he left, and he's going to get reevaluated tomorrow. The Leafs' first game tomorrow night against the Montreal Canadiens. So there's a lot already. Nicholas Backstrom's on long-term IR. There's a lot of big names who are just going to be sidelined, and there's a lot of big names not going to play tonight. So let's talk about tonight's games. Let's start with the first one. We got the Penguins without Sidney Crosby, without Jake Gensel, without Evgeny Malkin. Jeff Carter centering their first line. Now they got to go up against the Stanley Cup champs. A little bit of a different team here. I mean, their entire third line is gone. Yanni Gourde joins Seattle. He's not going to play tonight. Barclay Goodrow, he's with the Rangers. Blake Coleman is with Calgary. So that third line, which is typically, I think, would be a second line on most teams across the league, they're not going to be with the Bolts. David Savard is not there either. I mean, what do you make of this game? They're massive favorites here tonight, Tampa, and it's just hard to back the Penguins, even if you want to take them on the puck line, not to lose by 2 goals. I don't really see a lot of value in this game. You want to are you thinking about Tampa on the puck line to win by a couple goals? Like, what's your thoughts overall here on this first matchup?
Yeah, I would definitely take that very serious. And the reason are like look at every position. They have the best player at every position. Vasilevsky is maybe the best goalie in the league. He'll be starting tonight. Hedman is one of, if not the best defenseman in the league. And Kucherov, I mean, he came back. I mean, I think he was probably ready to play in the regular season, but he came out from the back in the playoffs and absolutely dominated after not playing all year. I mean, if you've never played hockey, you don't understand how difficult that is to be dropped into a playoff game at game speed. And he crushed the playoffs. So for me, yeah, it's, smashing Tampa Bay. And, the three best players in Pittsburgh are not there. Crosby, Malkin, and Gensel, they're not there. So good luck with Jeff Carter as your number one center. I got a feeling Pittsburgh is going to get pounded tonight.
Yeah, I think that Tampa will regress a little bit this season just with some of those guys out of the lineup. But, I mean, you're going to raise the cup banner here tonight, and you got, as we mentioned, that shorthanded Penguins squad. So it's such a tough blow for them, a really tough environment. I mean, I'm looking at their first line, and you mentioned Jeff Carter, Brian Rust, but Danton Heinen, he scored double-digit goals as a rookie, I think 3 or 4 years ago with the Bruins, and he had double-digit goals in his first 2 seasons here in the NHL. But, I mean, yikes, right? I mean, your first line, not great. Evan Rodriguez on your second line. Kasperi Kapanen in there as well, and Jason Zucker. I do like Brian Rust from a shot prop standpoint. He averaged 2.7 shots on goal last season. It's the only guy I really like in this game. Now, Tampa could score 5 or 6 goals, but they're not a lock to get the shots like Stamkos, and they just spread it around so much. We could see, Killorn and Palat at 1.5 shots, but they're really juiced to the over. There's no value there. Kucherov, sometimes he shoots the puck a lot, but he's more of a pass first guy. Braden Point at plus money at 2.5 is interesting, but I think, Brian Rust at minus 120, you can get him at Caesars. William Hill. What do you make of that? Like, who stands out to you from like a shot prop or a point standpoint?
Yeah, I like the Rustin because a lot of people look at it, the way he plays, and you don't think about a guy that shoots the puck a ton, but he does, and he's going to have to. Another guy that interests me on Pittsburgh is Kasperi Kapanen. All the stuff I've read through about Pittsburgh's training camp is that he has been absolutely on fire. I mean, this guy's got speed to burn, is a very good offensive player. And we've kind of been waiting for this kind of breakout from him for the last couple of years. I know they talked about it when he was with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and there was big hopes for him coming in last year, and he was injured. It was a strange season. There was no training camp. Pittsburgh was up and down. But all the stuff I've been reading about him. So that's somebody to really keep an eye on. Maybe put him on in season long, put him on your bench and see what happens. And maybe even, for shot totals tonight, because he's, from everything I've read, he has been absolutely on fire.
Yeah, he has. He's had a pretty good camp. He's going to get an opportunity here with the Penguins with all these injuries too. I mean, I'm looking like 16 minutes, right? At least probably.
For sure. Yeah.
Those two lines. And Russ may get up into that 20-minute mark. Over at FTNDaily.com, Russ Prentice has his core article, just a couple lines that he's stacking tonight, some goalies that he's playing, and then I have a value lineup up there. I mentioned Heinen. He's 3-3 on DK. He's 3-6 on FanDuel. Again, with just Crosby, Malkin, and Gensel ruled out, this guy's going to play on the top line here. So, yeah, 16 goals in 2017, 11 goals in 2018. Played with the Ducks last season, only 43 games. He only had 7 goals, but there's really nothing that, he never played with anyone better than Jeff Carter. Jeff Carter is going to be an upgrade for him here tonight at the center position. So I think if you're playing multiple lineups in DFS, you can maybe get Heinen in there as just a salary saver and it'll allow you to spend up on some of the big boys. I will just talk about Anthony Cirelli for a second as well. I don't like him from a shot prop standpoint. Usually he's at 1.5, which is okay. But 3.9 on DK and 4.3 on FanDuel. He's going to be on that second line with Alex Killorn and Steven Stamkos. He's going to get on the second power play. So again, rostering him is probably a better play than Heinen, because Tampa, they could score 4 or 5 goals here in this matchup. I don't really like Tristan Jarry overall as a goalie, so they could, fill the net on him. And Cirelli, just to be unique, right? A lot of guys are going to go up at the top with Kucherov and Point. Maybe you come down here with the Cirelli. You get involved with Killorn or Stamkos, or you can play him as a one-off and then stack, some Vegas guys in there as well. I was looking at some other odds, because it's 2 games and there's not a lot of shot props. You can't parlay these. Tampa's minus 240 favorites on the money line, and Vegas is minus 245 favorites on the money line. So what are we really doing here? Like, we just kind of have to cross out the money line, unless Eric, you see an upset. I don't think you do, but Kucherov to have 2 points is minus 110. I don't know what you like about if you like that. Vasilevsky's shutout. I don't think I've ever given a shutout prop. It could happen. He's plus 850 to get a shutout tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, Pittsburgh is wounded. Like, you'll hear us talk about this all season. It's about opportunity, and Dan Heinen at that price in DFS and even in fantasy is a good play because he's going to be on the ice. I mean, these guys are all good hockey players. Dan Heinen's probably never played more than 14 minutes in an entire game, probably ever in his NHL career, and he's going to be way over that tonight, I believe. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely hit that Vasilevsky shutout. He is unbelievable. Pittsburgh is like a wounded baby deer limping in here.
Like I said, I've never given a shutout prop, but I was just looking at that's at William Hill, and it was 9-1 for Jari to get a shutout, plus 900, and Vasilevsky plus 850 to get a shutout. I was like, whoa! I feel like that's pretty good odds when you consider the chance that Jari could get a shutout here tonight. Vegas is basically saying it's pretty much even between the two to get a shutout. Thomas McBride says Kucherov is plus 100 for 2 points over at DraftKings. Shop around, use the prop shop at ftmbets.com. Thomas, we liked that. We love that comment. So you're going to get plus 100 rather than minus 110. So Kucherov to get a 2-point night. A long shot here for Vasilevsky. I wouldn't put a full unit on it, maybe 0.25. I may put it in the bet tracker at 0.25. Like I said, I don't love the shutout call, but we're trying to find something here on a 2-game slate with two massive favorites. Is there anything else to add? DraftKings also has Heinen at 1.5 shots at minus 125. It's okay, but I like Rust a little bit more. I would rank it Rust, I guess Kucherov to have a 2-point night, Heinen, and then the shutout in there for Vasilevsky. You know, you can't take Tampa on the puck line at plus 108. I don't love puck line bets either, but I see like Tampa probably winning by a couple goals here, Eric. Anything else to add from this game before we move on?
Yeah, no, that's about it, man. I mean, you just kind of wish that Pittsburgh was at full strength and had Crosby and had Malkin and had Gensel, because this would be a really exciting opening game. You mean, there's, would be two kind of heavyweight offenses going at it. But the reality is they're half the team that they will be probably in a couple weeks. I know Crosby, I'm pretty sure he traveled with the team, so he's pretty close. I think Malkin is quite a ways away from being ready to play, but Crosby will be back. I mean, he's still one of the best players in the NHL, but he's not playing tonight. Like I said earlier, I mean, anything we've talked about has not changed my mind. Tampa's going to shell these guys tonight. Jari's in for a long night.
And the total went from 6 to 5.5. I mean, under 5.5, you can get using our prop shop. I'm seeing plus 100. That is at that's at BetMGM, so plus 100. But I just stay away from the total. Honestly, like, it could get crazy here tonight. But I do like, that's where I'm leaning. Maybe like a 3-0 game or 4-1. Obviously, we wouldn't get that shutout. Let's talk about the Kraken. So Seattle Kraken here tonight. Man, they're in tough too. And it's COVID really running through their squad. So Yanni Gourde has practiced in full over the past 2 days on that top line, but he's not going to play here this evening. Jared McCann is out due to COVID. Kalle Järnkrok is out due to COVID. Jonas Donskoy and Jamie Oleksiak both out due to COVID. And then Colin Blackwell is on the IR injured list with an injury, so he's not going to play here tonight. So you look at this top line, and it was looking like Marcus Johansson too was going to be out of this game, but all reports out of Seattle indicate that he is going to play here this evening. So let's just talk about their lineup. Vegas massive favorites here, minus 245. The total at 5.5. The Golden Knights pretty much the same, right? They bring in Evgeny Dadonov, Nolan Patrick, some additions, so the third line looks a little bit different. They didn't really get any scoring outside their top six last year, especially in the playoffs. Like, when that Marchessault line was shut down, that was it, man. They just needed some secondary offense, so they made a couple moves. Marc-Andre Fleury leaves the team. He had a career year. It's going to be Robin Leonard's net. We'll see if he can stay healthy over the full course of a year. But to this Seattle team for a second, this is how their lineup shakes out. So Alexander Venberg is going to play in a first-line role here tonight, center the top line with Jordan Eberly and Jaden Schwartz. And then how about the second line? I mean, Morgan Geekie and Brendan Tanev are nice, bottom six players, some grit. Both guys can go to the net. They can kill penalties. They can create some offense, a little bit of offense to a certain extent. But now they're playing on the second line here tonight with Marcus Johansson. You got Riley Sheehan, Mason Appleton, Ryan Donato on the third line, Alexander True, Cole Lynn, and Nathan Bastian on the fourth line. This is it's a rough go here. In terms of on paper, this doesn't look too good for Seattle here tonight, Eric.
Yeah, tough way to make your season debut with all of your best players hurt. We talked a little bit before we started recording. I mean, this is a real test of analytics and how real they are. As a person that definitely uses them to think about the whole picture and the big picture. I don't think they're the end all be all, but I think Seattle, they're pretty invested in it. I mean, they've got all these kind of analytical darling players, and we're going to find out. We're not going to find out tonight. I mean, all those guys with COVID and stuff, the majority of their best players or what we perceive as their best players aren't playing tonight, and we don't know when they'll play again. I think probably in a week or so, but this is a tough way to make your debut. Tough opponent. Vegas has been good from the beginning of their run, and Seattle is going to pale in comparison to them.
Yeah, they do have some puck moving defensemen. Ron Francis did just, he went with an analytical route, which is understandable. And what he did with Carolina, building up their defense, I mean, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt that he can make this work here. But Adam Larson, Cale Fleury, Mark Giordano, Vince Dunn, these are the standouts that they have on their blue line. Vince Dunn is interesting. He will be an interesting player, I think, moving forward this season. I think a lot of these guys are really in for career seasons. I suppose Jordan Eberly and Jaden Schwartz may not be, but everybody else across the board, I mean, you have the chip on the shoulder, that whole narrative of these guys, being unprotected from their team and, an opportunity to prove themselves. But really, that's the bottom line, an opportunity to prove themselves that they didn't get on their other teams. Like some guys are playing in a top six role here. We just mentioned the second line. Apart from Marcus Johansson, he's basically the only guy that's ever played in a top six role. I mean, Tanev, I guess, at moments with the Penguins last year. And Geeky, Carolina did some crazy things with their lines over the past couple seasons. I think he, at one point, played inside a top six. But these guys are going to get more ice time than they've ever had before in their lives. And some of the counting stats will add up. I mean, they're still an NHL team, and they will score goals. But I think they'll be in tough here tonight moving forward with just the massive blow with all these guys. So there's not much from Seattle from a shot prop standpoint. I mean, Jordan Eberle stands out. Venberg is a pass-first guy. He's not a big volume shooter. So he does have two snipers on his wing, and Eberle and Schwartz. Schwartz is minus 130 for two shots, 1.5. Jordan Eberle is plus 150 on some books. That's at Caesars and William Hill. Plus 130 I'm seeing on DK. 2.5. That's not bad. I like that. Over at Prize Picks, I gave the over one hit on Mark Giordano. How do you feel about that? Giordano throws the body around. He's the captain. He might set the tone here. The first shift, I think he throws 2 body checks here in the first couple shifts. What do you think about that, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, definitely part of his game. He's going to, probably log a ton of minutes. He's the captain. He's going to have something to prove. And, as a veteran player, starting off with physical play can ignite the whole team, and they're going to need it. They're going to need the motivation. I like Schwartz in season long. I'm really interested to see what he does there. I don't think he ever got a full opportunity because of injury or because of personnel in St. Louis. Jordan Eberle is a good player, but I mean, he's definitely long in the tooth at this point. Not a big body, not a great skater, but he's always been able to kind of get it done. So, when they're back to healthy, I'm very curious to see what the Kraken do here. Look at us. We're on opposite sides of the coin. You with your Vegas jersey and me with the Kraken jersey. So me wearing this has nothing to do with me thinking we're going to win. I just like the jersey, and they're playing in the opening game. And Bench Clears does a cool job of sending me a bunch of these cool tank tops so I can wear hockey-centric clothing in the summer and not die from the heat. But yeah, I mean, basically what you said, I would be interested in the Eberle shot prop, and that would be about it on the Seattle side.
Yeah, plus 150. I was trying to look for Morgan Geeky and Ryan Donato, but I think that's getting a little bit too cute. I did write up both guys at FTN Daily as value plays. I mean, with 2 games and 2 massive favorites, I think you may have to get a little unique here. Now, for Geeky, he scored 2 goals in his first preseason game. I think that Donato is a better play than him, only because he's going to play on that first power play unit. So he had 2 goals in 5 games in the preseason. He led the way in shots. Him and Geeky actually both had 15 shots. I was trying to find some shot props for these guys because I thought maybe they'd be at 1.5, and I'd be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I might take a shot on one of these guys. But Donato is
they're gonna play. They're gonna play, right? They're gonna be on the ice. It's not a terrible idea.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing on that first power play with Wenberg, Schwartz. Eberly is going to be on the point with Mark Giordano. So, I mean, there's an opportunity if they get a power play, right? He could fall into a couple shots there. He's 2.7 on DK and 3.2. That will allow you to spend up on some of these Vegas guys, and we'll get there in just a minute. So, Jordan Eberly at plus 150, I think that's worth it. I think it's worth taking a shot on that. That's pretty good odds for a guy who could put 3 or 4 pucks here on the ice. And with it, I mean, geez, he may get 20 minutes here tonight, Eric. They may just give him all the ice time he can handle here. Okay, so Seattle, I think that's it from, a prop standpoint. I was looking at the save prop, Philip Grubauer at 27.5. I think, I kind of lean to the over there, but we want to keep things simple here and not give out too many picks and make things confusing. Hopefully we could, narrow it down to 3 or 4 that we like and, help you win some cash that way. On the Vegas side of things, I mentioned the third line, a little bit different here this season. So the addition of Evgeny Dadonov, who had a down year with the Senators, but was really good in Florida. I mean, he was scoring goals when given the opportunity. And then Nolan Patrick, a top pick from a couple years ago. Now he leaves Philadelphia. Cody Glass, believe it may have been a 3-way deal. Was it a 3-way deal with your Preds? I think that was something like that. Yeah, Cody Glass goes to Nashville.
Cody Glass is
Nolan.
Insane. Yep.
Yeah, Nolan Patrick's 3.6 on DK, he's 3.4 on FanDuel. What's interesting about Patrick and Dadonov is that these two are going to be on the first power play unit here tonight. Vegas struggled last season on the power play towards the end of the season, and certainly in the playoffs it was non-existent. It was part of the reason that they couldn't advance past the Canadians. They couldn't score any power play goals. So they've just, they've basically juggled everything up. They got the big 3. I say the big 3. Shea Theodore is included in that big 3, in my opinion. Shea Theodore, Max Pacioretty, Mark Stone, and then Patrick and Dadonov. So Patrick and Dadonov, I think from a DFS standpoint, man, they stand out. They're good. I mean, you could play 100%. Those two just together, or you could mix and match with, maybe just Shea Theodore. And if they chip in on 2 power play goals here tonight, oh man, you're going to be loving that.
Yeah, at that price too. Nolan Patrick is an interesting story. High draft capital with the Philadelphia Flyers. Never really turned into anything there. And sometimes in hockey, we've seen this millions of times. Sometimes it's a change of scenery, and a fresh start. And I think he has all the talent in the world, but can he translate that into NHL success? It sounds like he's going to get an opportunity to show what he can do in Vegas, but they're definitely a team that is not afraid to change the lines around if it's not working. So we'll see tonight, like me and you or like everybody else, the NHL is chaos. And at this point, we have no idea who's good. We have no idea what's going to happen. This is all just shots in the dark. But after this first week, there will be some more clarity. But yeah, I mean, you could do worse than risking that price in DFS than a guy that's going to play in the top power play with those studs. I mean, sign me up all day long.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a lot of your money to get involved with like a Kucherov and a Point or a Stamkos and a Stone. Or maybe not even a Stamkos. He's not really on my radar. Stone, Pacioretty, Kucherov, Point. Like, you could actually make it work with those 4 by taking Donato, Geeky, Patrick, Dadonov, just taking some cheap flyers on some of these guys. I'm not seeing anything from, a shot prop standpoint for Seattle. It's just the big guys. Like, I'm seeing Pietrangelo at 2.5, but that's the over minus 185 at DraftKings. You can get Pacioretty at 2.5 at Caesars. That's minus 150. That's okay. I've parlayed him and Russ together at plus 192. Those north of the border Bet365 will allow it. It's a little bit hard to do in other books. Like, I wouldn't go over 3.5 on Pacioretty, but maybe you can put Pietrangelo in there at 2.5 and go Pietrangelo and Brian Russ and go that way and get yourself maybe about plus 200, plus 190. And again, there's only 2 games, so there's only so much you could do here from parlaying shot props. But Max Pacioretty is somebody they like at 2.5. And I can't find anything on Patrick and Dadonov. I just assumed both would be at 1.5. I'll keep digging. And if I find something, I'll definitely let everybody know in the FTN Discord channel, and I will put it in the bet tracker as well. But I think from a DFS standpoint, Patrick and Dadonov are pretty interesting here tonight on a 2-game slate just to get yourself a little bit different. Anything else to add? Eric Cheng says, just wager my children's college funds on Vegas. It's a community college if it loses.
I mean, it's not a bad bet. Yeah, I'm the fantasy psycho, but here you are. There's 4 teams playing tonight, and you're talking about player stack shot props. Yeah, it's
You know how it
I
is.
feel like we're home, man. This feels right. It feels good.
And a full 82 game slate and not the same teams playing each other. Like Tampa and Pittsburgh didn't even play each other last season, right? That's another thing. It's good. Finally some different matchups. That same whole boring thing last year. The total here at 5.5. I have a lean to the under. I think Grubauer will see a lot of rubber. I don't know. Robin Leonard's shot props at save props at 22.5. So Vegas not giving Seattle a ton of credit here. But yeah, I mean, Eric, if you're betting your children's college funds there on Vegas money line, I mean, you got to lay a lot of juice to get involved with that. Minus 245. I don't do a lot of puck lines, but I may have like a little mini half unit on Tampa on the puck line and Vegas on the puck line. And that will, let's use it on the prop shop. Let's see what we got. Say you put a unit on that. Plus 324. It's not bad. Not bad.
I appreciate that guy's spirit, but night 1, game 1, I don't know if I'd be pushing my children's college fund all the chips to the middle of the table just yet. But I mean, to each their own. To each their own.
Yeah.
Can't win if you don't play.
Let's recap here. So this is what I'm thinking. Russ 2.5 shots. Max Pacioretty if he can get 2.5 shots. Kucherov for a 2-point night. A small little sprinkle if you're into a bunch of action, like 0.25 units on Vasilevsky shutout. But guys, it's even as good as he is and as depleted as the Penguins as they are. It's a long shot for anybody in the NHL really to get a shutout. That stuff's tough to call. So Kucherov a 2-point night. And then from a DFS standpoint, I think Cirelli's got some value to him. Heinen with Pittsburgh here on the top line has some value. And then Donato has some value as well in the Seattle side as being on the first power play unit. And then Patrick and Dadonov in there. But Rust, I know I'll add Jordan Eberly in there at plus 150 as well. And then I probably will put in a mini parlay, a 0.25 units on Tampa and Vegas to win by 2 goals. But again, those are tough. It's really tough to come in here on the opening day on the show and just pick massive favorites to win by 2 and then have guys to get shutouts. It's like, what are we doing here? Dangle bet Celly is what we're doing. Thomas McBride says Tampa, Vegas, both to win. Boosted on FanDuel, plus 150. Thomas, friend of the show. We're going to like this guy, I think. He's a sharp dude. He's got some stuff for us. Anything else to add before we just maybe hit the waiver wire, talk some futures here before we get out of here?
I'm doing the Vasilevsky shutout. I mean, I'm not a person that gambles on shutouts. It's a game played on ice at 1,000,000 miles an hour with a weird shaped puck and these giant nets, and nobody knows what's going to happen. But the reality is to me, I don't know if there will ever be another time where you're going to get me to tell you to make a bet on a shutout other than tonight. Pittsburgh is wounded. He's unbelievable. They're going to be amped up. The banner raising of the ceremony, the people back in the arena. It's going to be wild. And I'm doing it. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm telling you that I'm doing it.
All right. Again, use our prop shop. It will, instead of shopping around at all these books, you can save yourself a lot of time. I'm seeing points bet actually just Vegas and Tampa on the money line. You can get that at plus 100. So that's not bad. I mean, plus 150 for the FanDuel boost is pretty strong too there, Thomas. T-Bone Pickens says Tampa total over 3.5 at minus 115 on DK. Thoughts? It's a lot, man, for 4 goals. As much as I don't like Tristan Jarry, it is quite a bit. I probably stay away from that. But if I had to pick a side, I probably would go with the over. Maybe you can get an empty net in there or not. They're going to probably put a lot of rubber on Tristan Jarry because we just talked about the Penguins, like how thin they are down the middle of the ice tonight with Jeff Carter and Evan Rodriguez. So, yeah, I mean, I can get behind that one, T-Bone.
They're going to get bullied. I'm telling you. Yeah. They're going to get bullied.
Yeah, they are. Okay. Before we hit the waiver wire, let's talk some futures. Let's call some Stanley Cup stuff here. So I have a free article over at ftmbets.com talking about futures, divisions. I gave some predictions for divisions. I gave some over-under point totals for teams. And then for those north of the border, CoolBet is offering they have just like season-long goal props. And man, they've undersold a lot of players in the league. They had Taylor Hall at 13.5 goals. They had Anders Lee at 19.5 goals, like a proven 20-goal scorer. Nick Suzuki at 19.5. Tyler Toffoli at 21.5. So I got like 20 of them in there for those who want to make a bet. The problem is you ain't going to see that money until the season's over. So that's the part that is kind of the downside with all these futures. We just saw a board there. Florida at 25-1. These are Stanley Cup futures, 22-1, excuse me. Carolina 25-1, and then Vegas at plus 850. I just can't get behind Colorado at their odds. And you know what, Eric? Maybe the Avs are just a little bit overrated, right? I mean, they've been Stanley Cup favorites in back-to-back years. They've yet to get out of the second round with that core. They played Vegas last year. Vegas smoked them. I think Colorado, missing a couple pieces from the team last season. I love the blue line. I think it has maybe the best blue line in the league, and there's no question about that. But man, Vegas is still coming in here with basically the same team and some upgrades, I think, apart from Fleury leaving. So as out of all the favorites, they are my favorite to get it done. And they've been in the league 4 years. And they've been to the third round 3 times. And they went to the Stanley Cup Finals already once. So I think they're a lock to come out of that division, how weak it is. That's why I like them. Where Colorado maybe has to face a St. Louis or a Dallas. Like, they may have a tougher opponent in the first or second round than the Golden Knights. Who's your cup? Like, who's your cup favorite and who's the long shot you like?
Yeah, I like the Vegas call. I think that they'll be improved, and as long as Leonard can be the goalie that we've seen before, and he stays healthy, they're going to be tough to beat every single night. I love that number for Florida. That's for sure. I'm going to put a bet on them tonight before the season starts, and I'm going back to the well with my Minnesota Wild long shot, man. I think that the odds won't be what they were last year, but I still really like that blue line. The goaltending is super solid. Kaprizov, I think, is only going to be better. Erickson, the number 1 center, is going to be playing with confidence because of the contract and how he played last year. So those are 2 long shots. And the pesky Senators, man, I just feel they're going to get better and better every year. That's going to be a hard division to come out of, but I think the odds for them will be definitely in their favor. So those are 3 teams that I would be looking for.
I don't know if you saw the comments because you got a lot of followers on Twitter, but when we tweeted out the show, somebody said, yes, Eric Young is back again to talk about my Senators.
That's right.
Yeah, plus 150 to win the Stanley Cup. A long, long shot, but we like this team. We like the rise that they're on.
I really like this team. I know it's sickening. It's sickening for me to say that, but it's
really
true.
do like this team. We've been talking about them for like 3 years now, but they have been on the rise. They got a lot of nice young players. So yeah, I think
it's going to click, man. It's going to click. I'm telling you.
Yeah, they need to sign Brady Tkachuk in a hurry.
They need to, yes.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, so for Florida, I like the additions of Sam Reinhart. He's a proven 20-goal scorer playing on lousy Buffalo teams, so he's going to get an opportunity to play with Alexander Barkov. You got Verhaeghe on that top line. Bennett and Huberdeau showed great chemistry. Owen Tippett is a nice young player, a former first-round pick just a couple years ago. He's inside the top 6. I mean, the third and fourth line are filled with players that could play inside the top 6 on multiple teams. Frank Verchano is a volume shooter. He can put the puck in the net. You got Patrick Hornquist there. He's a guy that, can move up and down the lineup. So there's a lot to like. Mason Marchment and Spencer Knight is a top prospect in the league. He only played 4 games in the regular season last year for the Panthers, won all 4, had, a couple games in the playoffs, beat Tampa in one of them. But I think they can hang with the Bolts. It's a really tough division. I'm not sold on the Leafs or the Bruins. The Canadians are going to be bad this year. And, Florida's just got a lot of offensive firepower. And I like the breakout from Mackenzie Weegar last season and Aaron Ekblad. Shop around, but you won't get that 22-1 for long. Most books have them at 16-1, 18-1. And once they start rattling off some wins, if they do, and I think they're going to be one of the highest scoring teams in the league, that number will go away. So I think it's a pretty good long shot in there. I have some division previews and some point totals here. This is from Mean Streets. If producer Tino has it, he could chuck it up. If not, it's all good. I was going to take the under on the Toronto Maple Leafs point total. I mean, Vegas just overrates them. That's it. It's all it is, man. It's not a hater thing. It's just they just give them too much credit. Like, I just don't think they're a 107-point team. I really don't. And, Matthews is not going to start here with the team. He's only going to miss a week or so. It's not just that. I feel like they're super thin on the left side, and I don't like their bottom 6. That's it. I just don't feel like they're a 107-point team. You got the Canadians here under 90 points. I mean, the leadership that they're going to miss here in the first few months of the season with Carey Price. Wow. Carey Price. We don't know when he's going to come back. We wish him all the best. He's on long-term IR. And then Shea Weber is not going to play at all this season. And then Joel Edmondson's going to miss the first few weeks of the season. So that's 2 of their big 4 defensemen not there. They lost Philip Deneau, one of the best defensive forwards in the entire league. I think that they're going to struggle down the middle of the ice. Jesperi Kotkaniemi leaves. I like the addition of a Christian Dvorak, but Jake Evans is a fourth liner. He's going to play third line. So the Canadians have a lot of holes. They're not used to this quick turnaround, 3-month off season for them going to the finals last year. So I'm a little worried about this team. I think the Senators at 77.5 points, Eric, probably finish with a better record than Montreal this year. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I would put money on that. I believe that the Canadians are limping into the season. They got Suzuki signed, which I think is a really good deal for a player. But he's, now with Danault gone, he's going to be playing all the important minutes, and we're going to find out. We're going to find out because Danault would take all of the tough draws, all the defensive zone draws, and Suzuki was out there against lesser players. So he's not going to be able to do that now. They're not going to be able to hide him because Danault's gone. And speaking of that, I think LA is a sneaky long shot to be a very good team this year. Kopitar, I think, bounces back and has a huge season. If Arvidsson stays healthy, those two guys playing together with Dustin Brown, I think could be unbelievable. I know Byfield's hurt, but I think he's going to be a player. The blue line is interesting. They got a couple young guys that could turn into something. And Cal Peterson, I think, is going to be one of, if not top 5 goalies in the league this year.
Ooh, yeah, bold statement, but I love it. He's a great fantasy target. We'll talk about some under-owned draft guys, but he was in most of my leagues, like my last pick, if I waited out in goal or I wanted a third goalie. It's a really strong season from him. It's not Quick who's the starter. It's Cal. And yeah, I agree with you. I think the Kings are certainly on the rise. They have a numerous amount of young players that are going to get into that lineup this year and show them something offensively. You mentioned Kopitar. I like the bounce back as well. And one thing that with Danault, you talked about Suzuki and Danault, and you make perfect sense when you say that. And I think the contract is great too. It seems high now, but in a couple of years, I think, you'll look at it and be like, that's a pretty good contract to get him in at under sub 8. But Danault is going to face top guys. Like, it's not that Kopitar can't, but he's going to get softer matchups like opposing center. He may not play against the number 1 center. LA probably says here, Danault will have that matchup, and then Kopitar gets some softer matchups. So you could see him benefit that way as well. I put the Kings in that free article at 50-1 as a long shot to win the cup. Now, I don't think that they are Stanley Cup contenders, but I think that they could squeak into the playoffs and make it. And you never know, right? Maybe these kids, show up a lot earlier than what we expect, and they could make an off-season addition or a trade deadline, rather, a pickup or two that, bolsters their blue line or their top 6. For Hart, I think you're going to like this one. Alexander Barkov, 25-1. What do you think?
Yeah. Love it, man. The guy, I wanted him to be a Nashville Predator so bad. And look, Seth Jones is a great player, but we didn't need defensemen at the time that they drafted Seth Jones. We needed centermen, and they still need centermen. And I think about how different the playoffs against Pittsburgh would have been with Barkov instead of Colton Sissons playing top line center. It would have been a completely different series. But yeah, I wanted Barkov as a Predator. He's one of my favorite players to watch. He's been an unbelievable player from the second he stepped on the ice in the NHL. He does everything well. At those odds, and I really believe in Florida this year. I think a lot of it's going to depend on Ekblad and his health. Gruesome injury. As a person that is kind of around into form after an ACL surgery for me in March, I can tell you that it is no joke, man. It is. Your leg doesn't feel like your leg, and I'm about 6 months from surgery at this point, and it still doesn't feel right, and probably won't for another 6 months. So we're going to see with Ekblad. I don't think he's going to be the player he was last year, but if he can be a decent version of himself, like you said, with Uyghur and the other guys on the thing, and Spencer Nice and Bobrovsky. I love that tandem. I think Bobrovsky bumps back. I love Florida there. But yeah, it's LA is a very interesting. I don't think they're going to win the Stanley Cup, but it's an interesting long shot.
Yeah, I just think Barkov's odds he's just so underrated, right? He's underrated in just real life.
We say it every year, but he still is underrated.
He is. They even said it on the broadcast the other day. I think it was James Duthie, TSN. He said that, a nice contract here. What was it? $80 million for 10 years or something. It's like I think it's $10 million per year. And he still feels like he's underpaid a little bit. But if he breaks out he's definitely a point per game guy, but if he breaks out and just flirts with that 100-point mark and everything flows perfectly for the Panthers this season, he will be in the conversation. I just want to come in here and say, Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. I want to try to give you a little bit of value. Kucherov is interesting at 7-1, but at 25-1, I think it's a decent long shot. Darcy Kemper at 13-1 to win the Vezina. My one problem, he's only has one season in his NHL career with like over 31 starts. He needs to stay healthy, but leaving Arizona and going to Colorado, his ratios should be fantastic. If he does find a way to stay healthy, he could win 40 games here. So he'll be in the conversation. I mean, Philip Grubauer was in the conversation. It's just about health, I think, with Darcy Kemper. And then I have Spencer Knight at 10-1 to win the Calder. I mean, Cole Caulfield is favored. I just don't want to give him one at plus 200. I think if Spencer Knight does, get half of the games, or Borowski struggles, or he suffers an injury, we like Florida obviously on this show, but if they win 40 plus games and he, has a rookie season where he can give you some decent ratios and win you 25 to 30 games, I think he'll be in the conversation as well. What do you think about the Kemper call here? We got about 5 minutes here and we'll wrap this up. What do you think about the Kemper? Are you worried about him overall from a health standpoint, or do you think 13-1 is pretty good odds?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be. When you're playing with your own money, you have to think about that. The fact that he's never played a full season is terrifying. I mean, the reality is when he's played, he's been unbelievable. He's played on absolutely rotten teams in Arizona and still had, very, very good save percentage, very, very good numbers for a goaltender. And this will be by far the best team he's played on, and it's not even close. Like you said, their blue line might be and probably is the best in the entire league. Cal McCarr, I think, right now, he's probably my favorite player to watch. And if he stays healthy, then he's definitely going to be in that conversation, if not win it. But the reality is he's never played a full season, ever. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Grubauer was the same thing, a very good goalie, but he couldn't stay healthy. And I think if he did, he might have won it last year.
Yeah, absolutely. DK, he's 10-1. BetMGM, he's 13-1. And there's one more long shot I like here. Ilya Sorokin. Now, he may split the net with Varlamov, but Varlamov's not 100% right now. We just could see that switch happen. It's probably going to be 50-50, but Sorokin had some really good numbers last year as a rookie. He was great in the KHL for years. He's 36-1 in some spots. Coolbet as well has him at 36-1. I don't see him on DraftKings. You bet the field, you get 14-1 there, but he could take over that net, and the Islanders are going to be stingy. They're not going to give up a whole lot, and they're going to be a really good team here. I got Colorado and Vegas division winners is plus 125 on DraftKings, but if you wanted something else just to make it worth your money, you could put the Islanders in there and make it 7-1. You could take the Islanders out and put Florida in there to make it 8-1, or you can go Vegas, Colorado, Islanders, and Florida, and you can get that at plus 4,000. So, I mean, a little bit of a long shot to put Florida in there. Yeah, but I think Vegas, Colorado, and the Islanders, I think that makes for a strong bet. All of that can be in there. All of that is over in our bet track, and it's free article. Plus 550 for Vegas and the Islanders to win their divisions. You put Colorado in there, and you can get it up to like 8-1. But the Avs are heavy favorites to win their division, as well as the Golden Knights. All right, waiver wire. You got anything for us on the way out? Who's a guy that you feel got disrespected in drafts?
Yeah, I mean, we said something earlier about Sergovich from New Jersey. He's playing on the top line. He's playing on the top power play. And a guy that has been talked about for the last couple of years as being this kind of offensive dynamo and has never done it. I think New Jersey is going to be massively improved this year. I just believe that I have this gut feeling that they're going to be really good. Mackenzie Blackwood was really good last year on a team that was just rotten. Finally, Hughes is starting to roll into form, and Nico Hischier is a guy that's going to center the top power play there. He's like, a couple years ago, we were talking about this guy, being one of the best players in the NHL. He had the injury where he had to wear the full cage last year. Wasn't the same player, but I think this year could be a massive breakout star. So that's two guys that I really like that you can get late in your drafts. They're probably very affordable in DFS and probably have pretty crazy odds to start the season as good players.
Yeah, listen, there's so many big names like Crosby and Matthews and McKinnon who are not going to play here for a little bit. So, I mean, you can put them on IR plus and then go to the waiver wire and pick some guys out. So I'll just rapid fire through a couple. I mean, Yanni Gord's in the same situation. You could just pick him up and then put him on IR and then pick up another guy if you wanted to. Joel Erickson Ek, one of two players last season to have at least 19 goals, 100 shots, and 100 hits. He's going to center your boy Kaprizov on that top line and be on that first power play unit, a net front presence for him. Your other guy, Josh Norris, Drake Batherson's like right around that 55% ownership mark, but Josh Norris is his center. Eventually, Brady Tkachuk will be signed, and that three, that trio was one of the best lines in hockey last year, believe it or not. I mean, they check a lot of boxes. They're really strong, and they all play together on the power play. They all kind of correlate well in DFS as well. And Josh Norris he's just a really good player. People don't really talk about him. I think you'll start to hear his name a little bit more as a breakout candidate. Blake Coleman back in a top 6 role. When he was with the Devils, he played in a top 6 role. The season before he left to go to Tampa Bay when he was traded at the deadline, he was one of 3 players actually, that had 20 goals, 200 hits, and 200 shots for people playing in bangers leagues like Eric and myself. We like category fillers, and Coleman, he's just, I think what you can expect from him is you go back to his numbers in New Jersey where he was averaging about 17, 18 minutes a night. He was playing on the power play, playing in a top 6 role. It looks like when he's serves his 1-game suspension for the brutal hit in the preseason, he'll be on that first line, I think, with Matthew Tkachuk and Elias Lindholm. You can call it the first, you can call it the second. I think it's the first, just really, with Monahan and how brutal he's looked over the past little bit. So he's available. You can touch a lot of categories. Jesse Puljujarvi on that first line with Connor McDavid, going to get some power play time. It's on the second unit, but McDavid and Draisaitl don't leave the ice for a power play, so he's going to have an opportunity to really step up and bring his game to another level. I thought he broke out last year with 15 goals. He loves to shoot the puck and throw his body around too. Jared McCann, when he gets back in the lineup, he's going to be a guy that I'm going to have a lot of interest in this Kraken team. Christian Dvorak, second line, showed some chemistry with Jonathan Drouin and Josh Anderson in the preseason. He's going to get a lot of ice time in Montreal. He's a proven, 50-plus point guy. He had back-to-back 100-point seasons with the London Knights. He leaves Arizona. He's going to play with a few better players in Montreal. Pierre-Luc Dubois is very interesting, Eric. I mean, he just looked so awful with the Jets, and, just his first couple of years in Columbus was much better. And then Sharon Govich I have in there, and Nick Ritchie on the left side. Anything you wanted to add from any of those guys? I mean, Pierre-Luc Dubois is that interesting name, right? This time last year, this guy was getting drafted pretty early. He was dropped across a lot of leagues, and now he's just getting undrafted. Do you expect a bounce back, or is just Winnipeg a bad environment for him?
I mean, I think he bounces back. I mean, this is a guy that was a very good player in Columbus, had the one unbelievable playoffs where he just dominated. Anytime he was on the ice, you couldn't take your eyes off him. Then they had all the stuff with Tortorella. He ends up in Winnipeg. His dad is part of the organization. Oh, it's this feel-good thing. And it just didn't come together last year. He was not a good player at any point during the year last year, but it's a lot of stuff to go on mentally. Moving. I mean, if you've ever moved, even in moving down the street, it's a pain in the ass. I mean, it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of stuff going on. These guys have unlimited money, but they're human beings, and it's a huge adjustment to move there. So yeah, I think he has a bounce back. I love that list. I mean, obviously I said Sharon Govich I really like, but there's not a guy on that list that I don't have on my watch list at this point or already have in my team, because I these are guys that you could get late in your drafts, or you could pick up, as early as this week once you see them have one decent game. Keep your eye out for that whole list, man. It's every guy on there is worth something.
Absolutely. All right, that's going to do it. There are 5 games tomorrow. This is a Tuesday and Thursday show. We'll always try to do a little sneak peek. We wanted to keep this 30 minutes. Of course, Eric and I get excited. We wanted to give some futures for you guys. For the most part, this will be about a 45-minute show. It will be available on iTunes, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to your podcast, as early as Thursday for the second episode. We're going to record this live. You can hang out with us live. You can watch it on ftmbets.com. You can listen to it wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. We appreciate if you could subscribe, rate, review. That will do us a huge favor to help this show grow. We appreciate the support. At any moment you guys have any questions, you can always hit us up. I'm just going to rapid fire through my thoughts here tomorrow with 5 games on the ice. I think, Tyler Johnson's going to be interesting on that top line in Chicago with DeBrincat and with Kane. I'm going to want to get involved with maybe a point. You could probably get plus money for him just to hit the score sheet. I know it's against the Avs, but I like that upside of him playing with those studs. And then with Winnipeg against the Ducks, I'm going to like Kyle Connor. He's one of my favorites to go to in terms of shot props. You're probably going to see him at 2.5. I would take the over on that one. And then Connor Garland is going to play in a top 6 role with the Canucks against the Oilers. And I think he's in for a big season as well for some shot props. And then for the Habs, of course, I got to give one Montreal guy, Cole Caulfield. Cole Caulfield's going to shoot the puck a lot this season, and it's going to start tomorrow against the Leafs. Eric, always a pleasure, dude. Always a pleasure. What are you doing? Writing down some picks over there right now?
Yeah, I was just locking a few things in. Vasilevsky shutout. Like I told you, I'm doing it. So I'm not telling you to do it. I'm telling you that I'm doing it. And I believe if there's ever a time to bet on a shutout, it's tonight with him.
All right. On the way out, first goal tonight of the NHL season, Braden Point from Tampa. And then in Vegas, it's going to be Dadonov on the power play. All right. From Eric Young, myself, Chris Meaney, thanks so much for watching Dangle, Bet, Celly. Please rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend. We appreciate you. We'll be back on Thursday. Enjoy the hockey tonight. Cheers.